All right, so we're gonna go ahead and flip the head back over and remove the top half of the case. This one's probably stuck on there a little bit, so might have to get a screwdriver or something real quick. I think we got it. Okay, so these heads are, obviously, if you can see this, two-piece. The cam rod's in the middle, the valves sit down here on the bottom. Pretty straightforward valve train design. So I like to keep all my stuff in one of these containers, numbered with exhaust, 1, 2, 3, 4, intake side. That way I can keep everything just kind of separated out. So the first thing I'm going to do is go through and put the big, large valve seats in. So there should be 8 of these. Okay, there's those. Then we'll have 8 smaller ones. Okay, so there's our valve spring seats. I'll just put a little bit of assembly lube on them to keep them from corroding or anything like that, and just help everything slip better once it gets put back together. It just has one large one per. There's no difference in any of them for intake or exhaust. Then we're going to do exactly the same thing with the inner ones. One thing to note about these is make sure you put these on before you put the valve seals on, valve stem seals, or it'll really cause you a lot of problem. I'm also putting some assembly lube on the valve guide here to help it when I put the valve seals on. Okay, so up next we're going to start putting the valve stem seals on there. So I'll go ahead and just put them in here for now. Oop, got one loose from me there. And there we go. So these just simply push over the valve stem and clip onto that. Sometimes they can be a little difficult to get on there. I'll probably use a small socket to get them all the way on. Okay, so I'm just using a 5/16 socket that I'm going to use to press them on. These are being real difficult. Might need to put a little bit of assembly lube on the inside of them also, if they're the tighter quality ones like this. Okay, try this again. There we go. So some of them went, some of them didn't. There we go, got them all in. Okay, so up next is putting the valve springs back in. So we're looking at this, we got, yeah, so the ones up top are exhaust, one on the bottom are intake. I remember now. So this one is one intake. I think they're all the same, to be honest. And it's a double spring. Then we just put the valve retainer on top there. Valve spring retainer rather. Okay. So the next part is the retainers. There's going to be 2 per cylinder, or 2 per valve rather. So I put them in pairs of 2 there. Okay, so get this stuff out of the way here. Okay, so now it's time to compress the valve springs and put the clips in. I use this C-clamp type one for this engine because it has some very tight areas when it comes down on these. Otherwise you could use the big grippy type, but this just seems to work better. Normally I use that particular size there. This one's too big really, and sometimes it'll catch on the edges, but so these things are pretty simple. I'm gonna try to keep all this in frame here. Okay, so basically this particular one has two screws, one that goes on the bottom and one goes on the top. And then it just uses the screw to compress the valve spring. I usually use my drill to power it just because it's a whole lot easier. You may have to work with me on this. I'll give it my best shot though. So the round end on the other end gets centered on the center of the valve. And this end goes on the valve spring right there like that. And generally pushes it down. Okay, it didn't take a ton. What I usually use to put these in, sorry this is a little harder on camera than normal, is some tiny needle nose. They seem to work really great for this because you can place it in there where you want it and then kind of poke it around till you get it in the perfect spot. Normally I don't have this much trouble with it. There we go. Okay, when we get the one side in, I'll come back a little bit to make sure it seats. And we go forward on this one. And then we'll get this other one in here. There we go. This one's really giving me trouble here. There we go. There, got one. Sorry about the poor camera work there probably. Alright, so I'll just continue on like that and keep knocking them out. That one went better. There we go, got all four on that side. Then we'll just turn around and do this side. Hopefully I can get some better camera angles here towards the end when there's not so many valves just sitting out here. There we go. Over here and do this other side. Got it that time. All right, one more. Let's see if I can zoom in on this one a little bit. So first of all, I don't know if you can see that. I like to get about that much sticking out. Let me zoom it in here. So yeah, so I like about that much sticking out so you can just see the ring there. Yeah, so right there like that, so you can just see that ring. Then I come up and put the first one just on the shaft there, and it always falls off immediately. So it's gonna go to the bottom side. So I need to get that lip of it down in there like that. But what can happen here is it'll actually get partially hung on there. So that's what I want on the one side. That's why I just went up and down right there. Let's see if I can turn that for you. Yeah, so because we want that, there we go. Now I'm gonna go back down because I want extra room, but I want that retainer to stay in that groove up there. And I'll come in here and put this one in. Anyway, attempt to put it in is usually what happens. There it goes, now it's in. You can see both of them are sitting in there together, so slowly bring the drill back up and it'll grab. Okay, so the last step here, just got some little accessories and whatnot to put back on the engine. Just these exhaust nuts go on here, just to keep me from losing them since I won't be using this particular case anymore. Looks like two have gone AWOL. See if this one will go in on one of these down here. Oh yeah. Okay, then the other thing that needs to go in is there's 4 screws for the vacuum port, so you can, when you're tuning the carburetors. And they just each have a little aluminum washer, and they'll go in these little ports right there. These screws just simply screw in right here into these ports. Alright, so next I'll just come through here and tap all the springs with the dead blow to make sure they're seated. Oh yeah, good. Then lastly, I'm just putting a little assembly lube here for when the cam goes in a bit. Or I guess I can go ahead and set it in there. Okay. Okay, so the cam, keep in mind the intake is this way. Goes this way with this, it's this tachometer, because this is backwards. It goes on the right side of the bike. There we go. And I'll put a little assembly lube on all the lobes. A little bit on this gear too here. I'm actually putting a little light coat around the whole thing here because this uses an O-ring up there on the top. So alright, we'll just set that aside for now because we got to start on the bottom half of the head.